Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of That Early Childhood Nerd. I'm Heather Bernt-Santy, and we're going to do part two of the Free the Teachers series that we started last week. So with me today is Carol Garboden Murray. Hi, Carol.
Hello. Hi.
And Tiffany Pearsall.
Hi, good morning.
Richard Cohen. Hi.
Hello.
And Stacy Benge.
Hello.
Good morning. Um, okay. Last week was fun. We got to exercise all our half of our demons. The first part
Free
of the
the
list.
teachers.
Free the teachers. Okay, so we're going to start today
Hey,
with calendar time slash circle time, that kind of whole group have to be here, meeting time usually in the mornings. I've never seen it done not in the morning, but I suppose someone out there could be. Um, and uh, so I guess I just want to start by saying, start with something I tell when I was a director. I talked to my teachers about I hate I hate doing that. And now the students that I'm teaching, we talk about it a lot. That I think the one of the big goals of this group meeting time, right, is to get them ready to be part of a whole group and be compliant and quiet for when they go to school. And uh, the thing I hear the most from people who really want to hold on to this time or this way of doing this time, this kind of traditional way, is school readiness. But I think when we expect a whole group of children to function as the same unit at these ages and to be quiet and sit in specific ways for longer than they're wanting to, the ones who just can't do it get a very different message about school, right? So the ones who are always in trouble during circle time um, get a message that I'm not good at school, teachers don't like me, this isn't any fun. And so I think we're working against that stated goal of school readiness by ignoring what children really need and how they really learn here. Um, so that's my soapbox starter.
I think it's great. I think it's good to think about what the purpose of that gathering is,
Mhm.
right? What is the purpose? Is it getting them ready for kindergarten? If that's the purpose, then then you could argue what that group should look like, you know? I would say it would be maybe the number one goal would be let's celebrate being together. Let's celebrate a shared story. Let's sing, let's dance, right? And that would prepare the child for kindergarten, coming together and sharing this community experience.
Mhm. I think literacy is a big piece of it too. I absolutely love sharing stories and reading together with children, but I think the way that I'm seeing it morph and change, maybe not change, maybe this is the way it's been, and I'm just noticing it more. Um, is that it's not about the story. It's like I have to teach about the cover of the book. I have to teach about the illustrator. I have to teach about the author. I have to um, have questions on each page, and the children should be quiet unless I've asked them one of those questions, which I think is a super, super not fun way of reading a book.
Bah.
So
That's all
I
I
know
have to say about that. It's a little
it
gag
is,
noise.
yeah, it's such a traditional mindset. It's hard for people to break out of it because we have in my school, we have a lot of young college students and work study students and student teachers, and we
Hmm.
do just a joyful story song gathering.
Hmm.
And it's amazing how they will all be correcting the children who are calling out, right? The
Hmm.
children are calling out, they're participating. Shh, listen to the teacher. I was like, oh, and it's so hard to like, give that feedback. Well, actually, this is a time for them to have a voice. And
Uh-huh.
sometimes two people talking at the same time. And that's a great opportunity to say, oh, I think you have an idea. Let me see what you're going to say. And sometimes what they say doesn't contribute to the the ideas that I was putting out there that the
Hmm.
story's about, but and it might go in a million different ways, but that freedom, and I think it is an art, right? To hold that story with a group, but the freedom for the children to be participants and agents and citizens during that gathering is is something that's really hard for people to flip that idea that the teacher's in front, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we're listening to the teacher, and that there's this ping pong between student teacher, instead of all of us contributing.
Hmm.
And I think
It's
that touches back to our conversation last week that is this circle time. Are we back to circle time? We're talking
Yeah.
about story time.
it's circle
But
that
is
that's
it,
an element of circle time.
yeah, is it part of your ritual or is it just a routine that you're checking off your list?
Mhm.
Because we have a morning news every morning and we all get together and we share the morning news. Last week the news was I bought a praying mantis egg. Don't squish it like we did with the ladybugs, please. Like there are moments where you have to share things with the whole group.
Sure.
And then it's all the children saying, well, I wore new shoes today and I don't want my new shoes to get wet. And like having this moment of these are things that we want to share with everybody, and we're here to make sure that we're all together on the same page that we look forward to, because then you have the other side of this ritual, which is, hey, mom, I want to bring a picture of our new glasses in so that I can share it in news. Like
Hmm.
having that predictability and that ritual is lovely. Having it be, we all are here and we have to be, and I don't want anybody to do anything, but what I tell them to do is like not fun.
Hmm.
That's not a ritual, that's just mean.
Mhm.
But I think too, like what I've seen a lot with circle times, and like Tiffany, what you're saying, it's about the children. It's their moment, it's their message. But I feel like a lot of our circle times have become scripted by
Hmm.
curriculums.
Hmm.
Like where like even the morning message, the prompt is scripted in the curriculum. This is how you start, and it's our circle times are now again like what we just said. It's about the checklist, it's about the curriculum, and it's not about the children and their experience and what it is they want to talk about and what's important to them.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of Stacy of your term for our jobs, developmentalist.
Uh-huh.
And I'm
Yes.
thinking, Heather, about how you began this conversation about what is our goal for
Hmm.
Circle Time. And if our goal is to prepare them for a life of academics, then we need to behave we think we need to behave as a teacher, and uh, manage a class.
Hmm.
But if our goal, as it should be in early childhood, is development, is supporting young children's development, then that frees us, it frees the teacher to just sort of facilitate and help the flow along that the children are creating.
Hmm.
And that's a whole different type of circle time, like Tiffany does, than if we think our job is to teach them what they're going to need to know next for school. It
Hmm.
changes the whole thing when we believe ourselves to be developmentalists.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what about the folks who've been given this curriculum like Stacy's describing and are being told this is what you have to do every morning? What's the wiggle room? What's the
I wonder if there's ways, what are the goals of that curriculum? And do we believe that children learn through play, through doing, through
Hmm.
action? Are there ways to deliver those goals during playtime, right?
Hmm.
And how do we set priorities? So what can we preserve for our gatherings that is enlivened and exciting? So the kids run over, like, read another story, right? Let's do this dance.
Yeah.
I have news to share.
Hmm.
Those kind of things are how that is that whole group experience. I think our purpose has to be community, right? And then all those academic goals that we might have with some sort of curriculum that's been handed down to us, they really, for early childhood need to be appropriate for playtime.
Hmm. I was thinking as I was uh like when I emailed you all yesterday with the link and the plan for this morning about a classroom I visited, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, to observe a student who was, doing like practicum kind of stuff. And so I was there during their morning circle time, and it was March maybe, when that springtime when it's 4 and 5 year olds and we have to shift everything into kindergarten readiness. Everyone's super even more focused on it. And so they did the really traditional story reading all together, and then they did the calendar all together. And it was a lot of, okay, what month is it? And everyone just yelling out month names until someone yelled the right one accidentally, and then they'd celebrate it. And then it was like, okay, and yesterday was Tuesday, so what day is today? And everyone just yelling out names, word names. Maybe it was fun for the kids, I don't know, but they certainly weren't learning months and days. And because a few minutes later, when they shifted and they got their question out for the flip chart, and the prompt question was, what do you think kindergarten will be like?
Mm.
And three kids yelled, March! I was just
Oh,
like, did you not
gosh.
see
No,
how your goal is not working?
no, it's not working.
Or maybe it is. We
Right,
do a lot of
right.
marching in kindergarten.
That could be. They were all so pleased with themselves, thinking they had, the answer the teacher was looking for. It was so funny. But I think calendar time, if we want to shift that way for a minute, to go back and connect, Richard, with what you were saying about thinking about development, often calendar time is thought of as math and science because we're doing numbers and we're doing like weather and um, uh, all that. And I can't remember how long ago it came out, but Lily and Katz wrote an article about calendar time and how, the good intentions and just not fitting with how children really learn about the passage of time, or what's really the priority for them to learn about time at these ages that we've got them with us every day. And that it's much more effective if you have a goal of, children learn about the passage of time, however it's worded in different state standards. It's much more effective and aligned with development to, because we want to be as concrete as we can with children in these before school years. And day names and month names are still pretty abstract. So talking about this morning and later today, or remember yesterday when we did this with blocks, and tomorrow we'll do something different. We really, the intentions, I think, just what you were saying, Carol, can be tailored to fit more closely the development of the age range and the individuals that we're hanging out with during our morning times.
Yeah, I've always been wanting to interject when I hear people talk about calendar time, just like thinking about the history, since I'm an old woman now, going back to when I learned about calendar time. I was doing a student teaching, getting my master's degree, and I was in Florida, and I went to this lovely school called PK Young, kindergarten teacher, did a Math Their Way curriculum. And if anyone knows about Math Their Way, it's a curriculum that was written in the 70s, I think the early 70s, maybe the 60s. It was first called Work Jobs by this woman named Mary Barada Lorton. And she was an incredible visionary. And she wrote this curriculum for elementary age children, for 5-year-olds going to kindergarten, for first graders, for second graders, for third graders, whatever you want to consider those first years of elementary school. And because she was frustrated with worksheets. And so this, it was exciting to me because this kindergarten teacher had what she called junk boxes. And that was directly from the Mary Barada Lorton. And it was like what we call now loose parts. But she collected, here's a box of spools, here's a box of buttons, here's a box of keys. And she would integrate them into the block area and really let the children play, and would talk with me about the patterns that children seek about the design, about symmetry, about the way they use these loose parts. And she had some lessons for the loose parts too, where she would say, show me something that's the same, show me something that's the different. I remember she had me paint all these little beans. Like on one side, she had a bunch of lima beans, and she said, paint one side of them, and then the other side keep white, and we'll play a game where we take 5 beans and we throw them on the table. Oh, look, 2 of them are red and 3 of them are white. So 2 and 3 makes 5. That kind of, it was all hands-on stuff. It all was invented by this woman, Mary Barada Lorton. And the thing that is fascinating to me is that's where I learned about calendar time. And this was a kindergarten class, and she did it right before the holidays. She didn't have any calendar time until December. And she said, so some people don't even do this until first grade. But since the kids are looking forward to our holiday party, we're going to put up a calendar and we're going to start counting the days. And this is a graphic tool that could help children make meaning of numbers in their everyday life. And that's all she did, was she helped them count how many days until the holiday party, and they put up a new number every day. And then in January, she started doing a little bit more with it, with patterning and numbers. She never once said, today is Tuesday, what's tomorrow? She never once sang the day of the week song. All that was not part of Mary Barada Lorton's curriculum. And people took that image of her with the calendar and these workshops she was doing in California and around the country. She was excited about making learning math tangible, hands-on, realistic, embedded in the child's life. And she was, studying Piaget and Dewey and how children perceive time and numeracy. And so her stuff was revolutionary. So because she died early, she died in her 30s, tragically. I just want to say for Mary Barada Lorton, that she would be horrified that her calendar made it into preschool. Calendars do not belong in preschool.
No, and I've seen, people trying to do it with 1 and 2-year-olds. I've seen people try to do big circle times and calendar time and weather bear and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I hadn't heard that history before.
And
It's
that math,
you said, well, you said it was kindergarten, in the middle of kindergarten. So these are 5-year-olds turning 6. Just to kind of, for us to keep that in mind when we're talking about 3 and 4, that's an older age group.
And it was never meant to be a drill and a repetitive drill daily. It was introduced to kids. You could introduce it right before the holiday party. You could introduce it in the spring when the eggs are going to hatch from the incubator. There's different ways you could introduce counting the days and seeing that graphic representation. But that was taken and pushed down as a preschool math experience, which is completely inappropriate and borrowed from a curriculum that was designed for older children and misinterpreted. And it's the opposite of what a developmentalist would design.
But that's a lot what happens with all these things I think we're talking about. It's something that was designed, and we look and go, okay, they have to do it in first, second grade. Why are we not doing it here? And instead of us looking at developmentally what we need to build to get children there, we just take the curriculum and push it down.
It's so true. When I was teaching in Boston, there was a curriculum called, I think it was investigations, and they had like estimation jars. They had, I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, surveys. And I saw so many preschoolers beginning to do those things too. Daily. Okay, this is a tangible way to teach math. And they would do it with 3 and 4-year-olds, and it was ritualized and scripted and boring and inappropriate. Because we're grasping always for something to call curriculum, and we're reaching outside of our unique developmental ages where children are brilliant as 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds, and we're missing their brilliance.
Yeah.
Well, and granted, I stepped away for a minute, so maybe this was, but we focus on teaching instead of on the children's learning, right? We focus on what do I need to perform for this to look like I'm teaching and for me to feel like I'm teaching, instead of how do children this age learn and what kinds of things are important for them now, developmentally speaking, um, which would change if that was our focus. That would, I think it was Lisa. I think it's Lisa who used to at least say, I can throw marshmallows at a child's head, but that's not feeding. That's not eating. But I've done my bit. I've thrown food at them, and I think about that a lot when I see an adult leading a whole group in some sort of calendar or circle or reading instruction, um, where the expectation is stillness and quietness and waiting for your turn to speak. Um, that's counter to a lot of what we know about what should be a priority developmentally in these years and how children learn, and what kinds of foundational stuff they need to be ready for that future academic content.
Well, and we're driven by all these horrible standards. And so then teachers, people who are proud to call themselves teachers, think that the puzzle is how do I get child A to reach standard B?
Hmm.
I need to teach at them in order to get them there so I can check that box so that we can show that the child learned something, so that I can show that I did my job.
Hmm.
And all of these things are driven by the wrong uh, source.
Yeah. And then the children who aren't ready for that yet, um, whatever that standard is, are problematized. They're the ones who are seen as holding the problem or holding
Mhm.
the deficit. So now I need to do even more of this standardized focus stuff with those children because they're in deficit now.
Right. And of course, then the children see themselves as being problematic.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
the worst part of all.
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic that when we're trying to teach something that's developmentally inappropriate, we're robbing the child of their experience and opportunity to learn those very concepts? Like
Hmm.
with
Yep.
Stacy's book, I mean, we could break it down. Movement, getting your body over to the rug and finding a place to sit next to another child is a spatial intelligence. That is
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
mathematical, right?
Yep.
But it's like it's all coming together, singing a song,
Hmm.
sequencing, solving a problem, like the things that are all around us. And you might have that one child who can stare at the calendar and tell you all the
Mhm.
numbers up to 100, and he may not have the spatial
Right.
intelligence or the social awareness to make good judgment, to
Hmm.
solve problems. So it's ironic to me that we're trying to teach this stuff and robbing the children of the very way that
Yeah.
they can learn that stuff.
Yeah. And then the temptation is to say or to think, whether we're doing it implicitly or explicitly, well, that kid can do it. So that one 4-year-old can do it. So I should be able to expect all 4-year-olds to be able
That's
to
right.
do it, instead of saying, oh, that's one of the variations I see when I work with a group of 4-year-olds.
I remember my son, he was in kindergarten and he kept saying, is tomorrow the next day? Because he'd gone to a play-based preschool. They never did calendar. And they started doing calendar in kindergarten. He would say, is tomorrow the next day? And I would say, yes. But he kept repeating that for a long time. Is tomorrow the next day? And then when he was older, he told me, I thought tomorrow was like Monday, Tuesday, tomorrow day. I thought tomorrow was
Mhm.
one of the days of the week.
Oh,
He was able to
oh.
explain it to me. I think, oh, children are so brilliant. He
Yeah.
was he was thinking way outside the box, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Right.
he couldn't
Yeah.
explain to me, I'm really trying to struggle with the meaning of the word tomorrow. Is tomorrow the next day? You know what I mean? And
That was,
he's
oh, that's great. Yeah, that's the beauty, right? If we let them, they have such depth, and the way that even their mistakes show their intelligence. But we lose that when we just want to drill and focus on rote, memorized days of the week. And singing the songs of the days of the week is not the same as understanding the passage of time. Singing the alphabet is not the same as understanding decoding of language and letters. But we have all these shortcuts that again, we might consciously be thinking it, or it might just be the script that is deeply embedded in our brain somewhere.
Isn't it ironic too for calendar time that like the gift of childhood is being in the here and now, right?
Mm.
The gift of childhood is not really having a clear concept about time. It's like a dreamy existence. If you're 3, you don't probably remember your second birthday, right? How do you build a memory? How do you
Mm-hmm.
build a history? So there's this really beautiful, dreamy presence that children inhabit.
Mm-hmm.
And here we're having them look at a calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that to me seems a bit criminal.
Yeah, it's like when I think back to being that age, it's like the days went on forever. It's like that. It is a beautiful thing. And yeah, like you said, we're kind of robbing kids of that.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you all this. Do you think, and I know everyone's got an opinion on this, do you think that circle time should be optional?
Mm-hmm.
And why?
I mean, if you have to do a circle time, I think it should be short and it should be optional. I mean, for me, one thing is it's just harder work for me as the teacher to try and keep everybody there.
Yes.
And if what I'm doing is not of interest to them, then that's data for me about myself, my
Yeah.
circle time, and the child. Um, but also, I just think, these children who come and spend full days in group care have so little choice about what they can do and can't do and what opinion is safe and how to, I just if I can let go of a couple of those moments, then I'm going to let go of a couple of those moments.
I think
Yeah,
it
I
goes back.
think, okay.
You go,
Go ahead,
Stacy.
Carol.
No, you go. I've been talking.
Well, I
Somebody
I'm
go.
sitting here, I'm taking everything in Carol says.
I know. Welcome.
No, and one of the things like when I was doing more of going into classrooms for teachers who are getting their CDA credential and watching, and it was like seeing this battle of children come in and out. So I think kind of Heather, back what you were saying, like, okay, if they're leaving, then that's me going, okay, I need to reevaluate, what it is I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think the concept of group time doesn't, we need to kind of change that perception, because to me, it doesn't always have to be this organized thing in the morning. So I observed this one classroom years ago, and I think the children were like older 2 or so, but it was during play. And the teacher just kind of sat down like with like a basket of farm
Mm-hmm.
animals or something. Of course, all the kids like gathered around her. And I literally looked at the clock and I watched, like she held, let me rephrase that. The children were there on their own accord, but she created this amazing experience. And anyway, it lasted for like 15 minutes. And then everybody kind of started dispersing back. But afterwards, I was talking about a group time. And she goes, well, you didn't observe me doing a group time. I'm like, actually, I did. Like, it was, I go, the children came to you on their own accord. And I go, and you had these interactions, these conversations, you were asking questions. It was very appropriate for the moment. And I think that we need to kind of change how we perceive what the group time is. Like it can
Mm-hmm.
happen throughout the day, and it can happen in um, different parts of the room. It doesn't have to be this 30-minute structured time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bev Voss used to just sit down and start singing or reading a book, and all the children would drift or run over, and suddenly it was a quote unquote circle. It was a group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how she always ran it. She never did a mandatory circle time.
And we stopped calling it circle time at our school because of the perceptions out there of what that is. I think circle is a beautiful image, but we just started calling it gathering. But so we've gone through a lot of phases with like the discussions and in the different schools that I've worked at about why we gather, exactly what is the purpose. And we've always come back to stories and songs and dance, but as the kids get a little older, the teachers have said like they're trying to carve out more time for these conversations, whether it's just like what Tiffany said. So they're doing more pauses during playtime. And so it's like, hey, children, stop what you're doing. We need to talk about this. And that can be ritualized or not, depending on how the teachers that I see using it. But it truly, it kind of, the way our school has done it is like there's a beautiful story time, and then there's a conversation time, and the conversation times are definitely very loose and optional and not as ritualized as the story time. The story time, almost everyone comes. There's never like you have to sit at this spot, crisscross apple. Everyone's on the rug. Everyone's listening to the story. Everyone's saying, read another story or tell another story. We've experimented a bit with doing no books and starting with just telling, or have the children bring the stories. So, if story is a value in your program, making time for that, those spontaneous oral traditions and books and wonderful literature and all that.
And that's still literacy, right? Like that's still pre-reading, emerging, whatever you want to call it. If we are curious enough or skilled enough or comfortable enough to describe it to somebody, if they questioned, why aren't you doing the way that it looks more familiar to me? Why aren't you doing it that way? We can make a case. Stacy wrote a whole book that was a case.
That was my goal. Well, that's what, I think we even kind of talked about last week is I think as a profession, we need to really, grow in the ability to, be able to show the foundations and why that's important, but be able to show how just every single moment, as long as it is, of the child, and it's literally child-centered, not meaning every 4-year-old in the universe, but who I'm serving right here, that it's, anyway, it's going to be promoting whatever our goal may be. It all connects.
Yeah. So Tiffany and Richard, did you want to answer the question about leaving circle time, or did you have something else you wanted to say?
I'm curious to hear Tiffany's answer.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'd like to jump in.
Yeah.
I think that it's a much bigger question than just, are you allowing children to leave circle time or not? The intention piece for us, we all come to circle and we come up and we show up in different ways. So sometimes we're still painting. Sometimes we're standing in that corner on top of the kitchen sink because that's where we feel safest. But we're all part of this community. And the point of our circle time in the morning is to say, what news do you have? And what is our day going to be together? And like, here we are together. Your voice matters. You can have different opinions, but we're all here to take care of each other. And along with that, the agency piece is huge to me because this is one of the only tasks I'm asking us to do, right? Like, we have so much free time in the other 10 hours that we're here together. And we have that space before, we don't do our morning news until everybody's got here and we're about to have snack. And we wait for everybody to get here because it's important for us to be together. And we don't have any of those requirements throughout the rest of the day. So they have so much agency throughout the day that when we say, hey, let's all come together and make sure that everybody's here and taken care of. And Autumn has a new baby brother and she wants to show a picture of it. Like, that is important to us to have that piece of community. And again, it's not just about coming to circle and sitting here and being together. It's about like, this is literally the only thing I'm going to ask you to do that might be out of your comfort zone. And I'm going to make sure that I meet you where you're at. And if you're just like not here for it, but you're still like feeling like part of the group from whatever you're doing, then great.
I love that.
So in that sense, it's optional.
Yeah. Well, Tiffany, I think she's
it's like the level. Yeah. Go ahead, Carol.
I just think that point, like, what is optional for a child? Like, what is choice for a child? What is optional for a child? They didn't choose to come to school. They got dropped off by someone who had a schedule designed for them. So I like the way Tiffany said all that, because it gets to this thing about letting kids do whatever they want is is not really our option as educators. I mean, we have to take care of children. So what if the child maybe would like to be a part of the group, but doesn't know how to get himself there or herself there? And what you're saying is that you are here. I see you. We include you. And if we continually say children that this gathering, this meeting, this news is optional, and there is a child who doesn't come for 8 months, I'm worried that how have we interpreted that child's behavior? Does that child have a choice not to be a part of a group? He is part of a group, but the group is perceiving him as being someone that's outside the group because he's never come to our meeting. So I think that that is so critical in terms of how we give children choices and autonomy, and how we create communities that accept everyone being a part. And I do think there needs to be a pause in the day where we say, good morning, you're here, I see you.
And really, if you built that community organizing element correctly, all of our kids knew that Mr. R has sensitive ears and he wants to listen far away. And some days he comes and sits right next to you, and that is a special, beautiful day. And all the kids are like, look who came to sit with us today. Like it's much more than just come sit, be here. It's, hey, teachers, do you see, just like you said, Carol, do you see, is it a choice for him not to be there in a way that is helping him also be there at the same time in spirit? And I think that's different than like, yeah, do whatever you want. Like, go, peace out. You don't care. That's different than you don't like to sit still. So I'm going to make sure that you are in a place that you can be successful and still be part of this group. And that like my nucleus of care is still reaching you wherever you're at.
I really appreciate that we've been talking, that I've heard the words mentioned now multiple times: autonomy, agency, power. These are some of the primary motivators for our audience, for our community members, is the sense of power. And yet the kind of the irony, like Carol was talking about ironies earlier, kind of the irony is that so many of our teachers feel the need to control and think that they have to control things in order to meet these external goals that are set by their bosses, by the standards, by
and they'll be judged by that level of control.
Right? Right at a time when young children, what they need almost need more than anything is control, agency, autonomy, and power.
Yeah, and in that vein of freeing the teacher, there's that thread of power, right, Richard? Like teacher power, teacher autonomy.
Yes.
Teacher choice. And I mean, I love the way Tiffany talks about really building it from the inside out. So the teachers are empowering children, and in doing so, they are empowered to make those are hard decisions. We require everyone to be here for our circle time, and what does that look like? That's not a black and white answer, right? We had some kids who came to our school who had pretty traumatic experience in their other preschool because they had pretty significant, they were twins and they had pretty significant special needs. So they would hide every time we said, come together, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Here we go, Sodio. They would hide under tables, like, because they had been scolded so much for not being able to participate. So how many months it took us to, like you said, the moment that they came over and sat and wanted to hear the story or wanted to hear the news or wanted to be the person who chose the song or whatever rituals the teacher had set up, was just so beautiful. But it's not a black and white answer. So we as teachers need power to be in those spots of decision making.
I really appreciate this conversation because for so many of our early childhood colleagues out there, they do think it's a black and white answer. They do think circle time is mandatory. I've got to do it. I've got to get my teaching in, and I've got to cover X, Y, and Z.
It has to look a very specific way. Yeah.
Right. So I'm really glad that we're all putting that out there in the world, that it's not black and white.
We had a little guy who had a lot of sensory and impulse issues a couple of years ago too, who came to the first. He would love it when we all came together and did that dance, and then the teacher would help him get his coat on and go out to the playground. He would be the first one to go out and open the gate and help her because, and then we built up to how long. Because the teacher was saying, I want to do this story. The kids are dying to hear chapter 2 or whatever. But we started yesterday and he is really making it hard. So like there are strategies, right? He loved being there. He wanted to be a part, but then he kind of fell apart after 3, 4, 5 minutes. And so was he, how did we build up to his ability and how did we treat him respectfully and give him exactly what he needed was, hey, I need your help to go open the gate for the playground. That's the next thing we're going to do. And like you said, there's just so many decisions as practitioners that we have to make all day long. And we need the power to do that.
Free the teachers.
Free the teachers.
I also like how Tiffany is doing documentation. I happen to know heard a little bit about how she's doing that, because that's another thing that's heavy on teachers, right? We have to document, we have to prove, we have to make learning visible. And I don't know if Tiffany, you'd be able to talk about how you're kind of including the kids and doing the journaling. It's so cool.
Yeah. Before I jump into that, because it connects. I think if we can free teachers to start thinking about circle time with the same hat they think about birthdays, that it will help free that teacher, right? Like birthday celebrations aren't mandatory, but if you're not excited that Alex turned 4 today, you are like, who are you as a human? Talk to me about your Grinch-sized heart.
That's a good point.
And it takes years to get to a level of birthday ritual that feels right for your classroom and right for your group and exciting and beautiful for everyone involved, right? Sometimes I feel like sometimes you can just say like, this is what we do for birthdays and it works. But most of the time it's that like 2 years in, you have this idea. For us, it was special milk. Now we get to have strawberry and chocolate milk everybody's birthday, and it's like the most exciting thing in the whole wide world. And I wouldn't have picked that as like a birthday ritual for us, but that's what we have come to as the community, right? Like that's the really important thing we do. And if Circle Time has that same lens of what has your community grown into, what do your children value, what's exciting to you and to them that you've come up with over the years together, I feel like it takes 3, 4, 5 years to really get into that ritual of community that fits who you are as a person and the children that walk in your door every day.
Yeah.
And that same conversation happened to us for documentation and journaling, in that, I worked for 5 years at a public school and did journaling, a special, very like specific way that worked great for us, where we'd print out pictures and made like a big book every day, and the kids would add pictures and we'd add questions and thoughts and like value their learning in a very Anji play adjacent way. I tried that and it did not at all work at the school that I built for myself. Like, what the heck? It was my favorite thing to do with them. And now like it's not what our group needs. And so we transitioned to everybody has their own 3-ring binder. We have storytelling stuff that can be out at any point in time that the kids can come and get. And, somebody comes in with exciting news and we asked if they want to write it down, and that, very add to your journal whenever. But we've also added this piece of like, here's a special thing that your grown-ups love about you, and we'd like to add that too. So we have a special birthday page that everybody contributes to, that's like a birthday present to the child. We all say what we love about you. Here's a picture of the first day that you're 4. And the kid doesn't do it in the journal themselves, but it's there for them to say, hey, I love you. Guess what? And we try to keep that going with other things too, because birthday is the easy one, right? Once you kind of figure out what works for birthdays, then you can say, well, I want this child to feel this special all year long. So our latest one was Autumn had a baby. What did you look like as a baby? So all the parents sent in pictures of what the kids look like as babies. And then I, as throughout the day, not as a small group activity, but when you're looking around for something to do, I say, hey, what do you remember what it was like to be a baby? What do you remember about being a baby? And the answers are great. Like it is this guided storytelling activity, but it's done with this lens of other people are thinking about you when you're not here.
Hmm.
We think about you when you're not in front of me asking for us to notice you, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that piece has become really important for us too.
I love that because it's like a messy process, and documenting is often seen as that panel on the wall, right, with the
Hmm.
beautiful photos and the curated paragraphs. And I think as American educators and childcare teachers, we have to think about who we are, where we are, what kind of time we have, how we make the child's. How do we make documentation the child's
Because
and
I
make
want
it?
them to show up for documentation the same way I want them to be a part of circle time. Like it's my job to make it something they want to be at and that they feel valued for.
Hmm.
And hopefully that frees the teacher.
Yeah. So I want to, we said we weren't going to get a whole hour out of circle and calendar time, but we're getting pretty close. But um, so that just reminded me, we've mentioned another kind of repeated idea in this conversation has been if the children aren't into what you're doing, then that's information about what you're doing that you need to think about and use. But I think often, and I've done this, I can think of a specific teacher right now that I had this conversation with when I was a director long time ago before I'd changed my mind about some things. But they were trying to do the full, we had 24 4 and 5 year olds in one classroom, three teachers, and they were trying to do a full morning uh song and story, you know, and kids weren't enjoying it, and so the teachers weren't enjoying it. And I remember saying, well, you're not being engaging enough, then you've got to really think about, thinking that the data we were getting was only about my topic and how I presented it as the teacher, and not about what is this telling us about children's minds and bodies and interests and meanings and agency. So I think there's that idea of if children aren't staying with you through your group time, it means there's something wrong with your group time, to super encapsulate it, is true, but it doesn't mean necessarily that it all just lives in me, the teacher. I feel like I'm not being very eloquent about or articulate about this, but it's not just was my topic good, was my storytelling fun, were the songs funny. It could be that the data you can pull from that is that they can't they aren't going to sit for 20 minutes. Their bodies don't want to be that still. Their brains are telling their bodies not to be that still. The topic, whatever, is not meaningful to them. Um, or this, there's things they'd rather be getting to in this other rich environment that I've set up for them. It's so rich that it's drawing them away from circle time. I think there's truth in that idea, but it's that teaching versus learning kind of flip-flop for me there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One tiny tip I would give, I think, and I'm curious to see if Stacy, if you would agree, is take your storybook out of circle time. Circle
Yeah.
time, like Carol said, is about conversations, singing, dancing, community, news, all those kinds of things. But plan to read your book at a different time,
Hmm.
because it does a disservice to kind of the sacredness of the story
Hmm.
if it's part of that calendar weather teaching time.
Yeah, but we're saying there's no calendar, weather, time.
Right. We
Okay.
freed
If
you
anyone
from
wants
that
to-
piece completely, teachers.
But even if you're caught up in the lovely interactiveness of singing, dancing, and conversing,
Hmm.
to me, the story is a different experience that maybe should come later.
Mm.
It can, yeah. Yeah.
Stacy, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. No, but I think that yeah. And story time doesn't have to be your entire group as well. Like,
Right.
have books around the environment that are of interest to the child, and then be available.
Hmm.
That's one of the things I always say, like during playtime is our role is to be available. So if a child or a few children bring us the book, that we can sit down and read that book. And how amazing is that opportunity and that experience, especially if it's the child bringing the book to you, and or you just sit down at random points and just start reading the book. And again, it's amazing the children who will come and gather around you. But yeah, it doesn't have to be just right in that circle time. It could happen organically and way more meaningfully, is that the word?
You did it.
Throughout the day.
I wish I could pull the picture up quickly, but one of my favorite photos from a preschool class that I worked with, this little boy we did do it, like we called it community time, and it was a book and some songs, and really pretty short. But he wasn't interested in books being there. He didn't want to sit for those books. But one day he picked a book from the book corner and asked one of the adults in the room, gestured, follow me or come here or something. And over on the wall was all window, and then had like a little ledge, about not quite child waist high. But he handed her the book, and then he stood by that ledge and just put one foot up on the ledge. So he was standing there with one foot on the floor and one up on the ledge. And that's how
Little
he wanted
Captain
to
Morgan
hear the
moment.
story. Yeah, it was very much like Michael Scott putting his leadership on, but that's how he wanted to have the book with Lena, and it was so funny, and and we were all, it was like, oh, don't say anything. He's asking for a book. Everybody don't scare him away. And he stood like that for a whole, long book about an alligator or something like that. It was really funny.
I sometimes think like if you teach toddlers, like there's this weird like confidence you have to have as a teacher, because like when you start out with toddlers and you maybe sing a song and they just all stare at you, and they don't know one's singing, and then like you say, okay, I'm going to keep singing this song, and then 3 weeks later the moms and dads tell you, oh my gosh, what's that song he's singing all the
Yeah.
time?
Right.
Yeah.
And then like 3 months later the kids are singing with you.
Yes.
But it's like there is, when we talk about following the child's lead and celebrating those moments when they come over, there is this interpretation we have to do as teachers, right?
Mhm.
That they're getting something, if they're painting at the easel or if they're just staring at me,
Yeah.
something beautiful. And it's like, kind of like you said, Heather, we can't just like throw out the book and say, oh, they don't like books, right?
Uh-huh.
Or I failed. I didn't do an interesting time. No one's
Yeah.
staying with me. There's that weird like intuition as a teacher where you're like, okay, I wasn't sure, but I sang that song every day this week, and now they're singing it. And now it's a part of our community building. But I just
Yeah.
remember the first time I taught toddlers, and I was so excited about my songs, and they just like looked at me like, what? What are you doing? Why are you singing? Okay, is this what we do at school? And
Yeah.
it becomes, so you have to have a little confidence. I want to create a culture of songs,
That's right.
as a teacher.
Yeah, I think if we pulled out the goals of a typical circle time, group time, whatever you want to call it, I don't know that there's anything wrong with the goals we've pulled out in this conversation. At least does it match the children in front of us, and how do we do it in a way? How do we provide for it in a way that acknowledges, I guess, the children's development, and I think that is freeing. I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's harder work sometimes to think in these ways and to make these in the moment child-led decisions, and think about, well, what do I then need to learn more about to be able to make those decisions? Like I think that's harder than just going in with your prepackaged curriculum and your scripted prompt and your schedule and your but I also think it's less stressful once you get there.
More fun.
More fun, yeah.
More fun for the kids, more fun for you.
Yes, yeah.
Like Stacy's book, it's like, it's the real stuff, right? It's like, it's not contrived.
Yeah.
The poetry of life, the
Yeah.
songs, kids say, it's just, we don't have to contrive it. We don't have to, but it doesn't, freeing doesn't mean it's easier, but having a book like Stacy's to say, like, when we sing this song, these are the oral lessons. These are the vocabularies. This is the syntax. These are all these amazing. When children sing, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." That's so poetic. That's building their capacity for imagination and language and communication, and just it's the simplest stuff we do living alongside children, right? That we can prioritize and go into deeper when we have that rationale. Like, what is literacy? How is a conversation literacy? How is that song literacy? How is that getting your body in that chair so that you can participate in that activity? How is that literacy?
You better be careful, Carol. The science of reading police are going to come find you. Okay. Anybody have any last things you want to say about this topic? We'll have to put the rest of our list on another morning.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go Tiffany, and then go Stacy after Tiffany. Okay.
Okay. I think that your gathering times, whatever you want to call it, I'm here to be word police. They need to be like a good cup of coffee. There was a time in your life where you had never had coffee, and that's okay. And once you've had a good cup of coffee, now you know what you're missing.
I love it.
And I think that there's just this point where, like, you do not need to have had a good cup of coffee yet. But someday you will, and I will be there to help you make it delicious.
I love it. That's amazing.
That's beautiful. I love that goal. I love that analogy. I mean, really, like, you don't know how good it is, kiddo, to come over and hear this story, to sing this song. And we all need this break, and we all need this place to see one another.
Yeah.
A really great way to get your priorities straight.
Yeah. Reminding me I haven't had any coffee yet this morning. Stacy.
I don't have a great analogy like that, but no, but I think like the underlying theme, and this was even last week as well, it's the moving away from the standardization, and it's moving away from this misconception that whatever age group is at the exact same thing. And it's this whole model of, if we give this input, they're going to get this output. Children are individual humans, and we've got to look at the children we have right now in our space, and everything needs to be designed around that. And and this, the prepackaged curriculums won't do it. The standardizations that those lists that we have to meet don't take that into consideration. So I kind of think one of the ways we can start freeing ourselves as a profession is we've got to start speaking against that, because it's not. I'm going to Australia in October for this conference, and their theme is universal, not uniform. And I thought that was kind of cool, because it's like, universally, we want all children to be the best versions of themselves and successful, and down the line. But it's like that cannot be achieved in a uniform way. I mean, it's got to be meeting the children we have where they are, and that's a day-to-day thing. And Heather, like you said, it does require more on our parts. But if we're meeting children where they are, and we're tapping into what's important in their lives and their interests, they're going to be there. They want to come and be a part of that, because that's them, and it's important to them. And so it's I think it's less stressful, it's more engaging. And but yeah, I mean, I think that's just this underlying theme that we kind of keep hearing.
Yeah. And I think knowing your field, right? So there is freedom in knowing that calendar time came from Mary Barada Lorton, and it was for elementary school, and the way she implemented it was not the way it's being done. And just like, how did that get down here? Or we can take the standards, literacy, mathematics, whatever we want to call them. We can take those and show, right? We can show how kids learn. So it is that freedom to think, freedom to show, freedom to to be with children.
Mm-hmm.
The freedom of knowing development.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We did it. We sold circles on
Yeah.
it. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all for this conversation. It's a great way to start the day with you all for sure. And I know that this is
Together,
gonna
just like kids say no, we can say no. There's freedom in saying no, right? Sometimes we say no before we say yes. Sometimes we say, hey, I'm going to do a year without calendar time. No, and this is what I'm going to do instead.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if there is someone who is just like, no, you have to meet these goals, then we have to come up with other ways. We can still say we're not going to do it in a way that we know won't really work, or isn't really ethical or appropriate. But I'll try to meet those goals in this other way, and that's, I guess, maybe a different kind of freedom, or an element, a step toward freedom. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to hit stop here. So thank you all for being here. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Come back again next week, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.